We'll give you the whole story after the break.
Sunday on Fox News Channel.
Internationally renowned humanitarian intellectual Chelsea Clinton has had about enough of this show, so she's called today for Facebook to shut us down. Quote, in December, Facebook banned claims about COVID-19 vaccines that have been debunked by public health experts, and yet, and she put into her own monologue on vaccines on Tuesday, she said, our show's continued presence on Facebook was, quote, especially troubling, given that Republican men are currently most likely to say they're not interested in being vaccinated. Which is funny on so many different levels. First, that's completely not true. If you're looking at the populations that are most vaccine hesitant, it's not Republican men. And by the way, we don't judge. Our body, our choice. Every person has a moral right to make a decision about his or her own health care, period. So there's that. But moreover, this show has been pretty adamantly pro-vaccine from the first day and remains that way. And because we do support science and do support vaccines and have faith in American science, we'd like really simple questions answered. For example, why do people with high levels of antibodies, people who've been naturally infected, why are they being encouraged to take the vaccine? Is that good for them? We don't do that with other vaccines. Why are we doing it now? And most to the point, why are people who've been vaccinated being treated as if they haven't been vaccinated? What is that about? Sincere question. Well, today, Congressman Jim Jordan asked Dr. Fauci when life in America might return to normal. Now, Fauci's an expert on everything, but he didn't have an answer for that question.
In your written statement, you say, now is not the time to pull back on masking, physical distancing, and avoiding congregate settings. When is the time? When do Americans get their freedom back? Can you put your microphone on, please?
Sorry. When we get the level of infection in this country low enough that it is not a really high threat.
What is low enough? Give me a number. When do we get to the point? What measure, what standard, what objective outcome do we have to reach before Americans get their liberty and freedoms back?
You know, you're indicating liberty and freedom. I look at it as a public health measure to prevent people from dying and going to the hospital.
You don't think Americans' liberties have been threatened the last year, Dr. Fauci? They've been assaulted.
Well, then another member of Congress asked Fauci about this show's criticism of Fauci's rules. And by the way, not just lots of people have asked the obvious question. You get the vaccine and you think it works. They've told you it works, but then they say you have to socially distance, stay indoors, you can't go to restaurants, and you have to wear a mask. What is that about? What's the answer? Fauci, again, didn't answer it. He just said we have no choice.
Last night, Mr. Carlson responded to you, saying it's not a conspiracy theory. He said, referring to vaccines, quote, if this stuff works, why can't you live like it works? Why are you wearing a mask? Well, what's the answer, Dr. Fauci?
What we don't know right now, but we will know as we gather more information, that you can get infected even though you've been vaccinated, and because you're vaccinated, have no symptoms. And therefore, you could have virus in your nasopharynx, and you could then transmit it inadvertently to somebody else.
Okay. So Fauci says you can still get the virus even after you've been vaccinated and not know it and pass it to other people. A couple questions. One, why don't we know for sure? I mean, don't we have a lot of people working on this? Seems like that would be a very obvious question that we would have answered months ago. Second, why haven't they told us this before? It's the opposite of what they've told us. Why aren't they being straightforward? We don't know the answer. We do know that CDC Director Rochelle Walensky just said something very different. Watch this.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just
seen, and there are a couple of them, but do they work or don't they work? It's okay, you can tell us. Well, the CEO of Pfizer came out and seemed to suggest today that actually the dose that Pfizer is administering doesn't work. The CEO of Pfizer just announced that 2 doses probably aren't enough. He said it is, quote, likely that people will need a 3rd dose of his company's coronavirus vaccine within 12 months of getting fully vaccinated. I guess it's nice to know that now. We didn't know that yesterday when Chelsea Clinton was trying to pull us off the air for asking questions that he partly answered. Thank you, CEO of Pfizer. Glad to know. The CEO of Pfizer then added it's possible people need to get vaccinated against coronavirus every year. Well, that's good to know, too. Glenn Beck is the host of the Glenn Beck radio program. He joins us tonight. Glenn, thanks so much for coming on. Nobody here is anti-vaccine, but why can't we get answers to the most basic of all questions?
Because, Tucker, it appears to me they're either wildly incompetent or this is not about COVID. This is about something else. And I don't know what that is. But as you've talked about and laid out a really good case during the whole show today, everything is changing. Everything is changing. They're changing the Supreme Court. They're changing the way we talk to each other. They're changing the way we teach our students, our children. They're changing the way we look at race. Everything is changing. So what changes are being made with COVID? I don't buy their answers. I, too, am not anti-vaccine. I had COVID. My wife had COVID. Everybody in my family had it. I'm not going to get a vaccination because I've already had it. And I don't understand why this time, it's different than every other thing that we've ever encountered in human history.
Well, especially since there are indications that it's potentially unhealthy to give someone with high levels of antibodies the COVID vaccine. But, what do I know? I'm hardly a man of science. I'm just kind of interested in the way that scientists think, and I think we all should be. But why? So tens of millions, maybe more than 100 million people have had the COVID infection already. The Biden administration is saying all of them should get the vaccine, but no one has bothered to ask why. What is that? Sincere.
They're instead asking us, they're saying, why aren't we vaccinated? Wait a minute, hang on just a second. You're not giving me complete information here. I have already had it. Why do I need to be vaccinated again? And they're treating this like it is the bubonic plague, and it is not the bubonic plague. Something else is wrong, and I don't understand why we have to listen to these experts who are anything but experts. These experts are the same experts that told us that there was a great conspiracy going on with Donald Trump and Russia. Wrong. All these experts told us that the crash in the financial market would never happen. Wrong. The experts told us there'd never be a caliphate. Wrong. Why are we listening to these experts? Thomas Jefferson said at one point, trust the American people. They may get it right, they may get it wrong from time to time, but eventually they will figure it out. I would rather be judged by a group of farmers than all of these elites in the academic institutions. That's Jefferson, and he's right. The experts don't run our lives. They don't run our country, although they are seemingly starting to run everything in our life and in our country. People are supposed to be running it. And when you make a good case, then we'll follow. Make the case. Exactly. But you can't question. And my feeling has been forever. I've taught my kids this forever. Anyone tells you not to read something, you probably should read it. Now, that doesn't mean you buy into it. But if they can't tell you why you shouldn't read it, why this is wrong, what you should read instead, read those things, but also read the other. When somebody says, you can't say that, you can't think that, you can't answer or ask that question, that's because usually they're afraid. They have another agenda, just like the church did with Galileo. Galileo was the guy who gave us the system of science and honest questioning. He spent his whole life up in a tower because he refused to give in. I'm sorry, but when we go back to a system of actual science where men and women are free to ask honest questions, then I'll be fine. We can proceed from there. Until then, I'm not going to do anything because you tell me. And it's mom and dad just said so do it.
Yeah. If you want us to trust the experts, get competent experts. Otherwise, no. I agree.
Right.
And I love the Galileo example. Glenn Beck, the great Glenn Beck. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. God bless.
God bless. Well, the border's out of control, and of course the purpose of it is to change the political balance of the country. What no one is saying is that this is taking a massive toll on the physical environment. Remember the environment, nature, the stuff that God made is being destroyed.